Everybody, welcome back to This Random Journey. Today I wanted to raise awareness for the foster care system, being Foster Care Awareness Month. Today I'm going to talk to you about something I'm going to title Check Engine Light. So, short story before I get to what I want to talk about. Today, as I was driving my foster daughter to school, we have a check engine light that stays on in our vehicle constantly. Has been on for years and years. There's like some kind of a flow intake something. Anyway, it's not a super important thing that needs to be fixed, so we haven't fixed it. But that light today randomly went off, and because it had been on for years and years, I actually got concerned whenever the check engine light went off, which typically it would be the opposite way around. But because that happened, I had this kind of thought that came to me, and I wanted to share it with you guys. With foster children, often they have been living in a situation where they are in fight or flight mode pretty much all the time. So it could be something as simple as trying to figure out what's for dinner if a parent's not there to help them, prepare dinner or get dinner on the table. So it could be something simple like that, where they're just trying to figure out what to do, daily tasks that children just typically don't have to worry about doing. So it could be something like that. It could be taking care of another sibling, that their senses and they have to be in tune with what is happening in the house, and that kind of stuff. So if they have been in a situation where they're taking care of siblings, they could have heightened fight or fight response, which basically means they are in an emergency kind of mindset. Like there's always something that they're having to figure out. Like when a check engine light comes on, there's certain things you do. You will say, uh-oh, something's wrong. And so then you decide, I need to figure out what is wrong. So you immediately start like, what is wrong with my car? And then you're like, okay, now I know what's wrong with it. How do I fix it? Kids have to do that on a daily basis in some situations. And so basically they're in this fight or flight, in this kind of check engine mode all the time. So whenever they come into our homes and they have been used to having kind of this fight or flight scenario happening all the time, and their check engine light all of a sudden goes off, and they're not having to be as aware or take care of things, it can actually, like it did for me when my check engine light went off today, cause a different kind of response than what you would expect. It can actually heighten their anxiety. It can heighten emotions, just because they're not used to being able to just be a kid. So I just wanted to bring awareness to that part of foster care and what foster kids kind of go through coming into our homes sometimes. What may look like you're like, well, they're not having to be responsible for anything, or they're not having to do this, or they're not having to do that. It's not as stressful for them. But to them, it is, because they're not used to the calm. They're not used to not having to be aware and taking care of things. And so it can just be a different kind of response than what you might expect. So just ways that we can help them in that situation is, like, if they're used to taking care of a sibling that has been placed with you, is to let them still be involved in helping to make decisions, and to basically help out. Not to the extent that they were, obviously, but sorry, my tripod is broke. But if they have been used to doing that, then let them still have, a say in, do you think Sissy would want a bow in her hair? Or do you want to get me the diapers from the other room? Do you want to hold the baby while things like that. So just being aware that they still will need to be involved and taken care of for a while at least. You can kind of wean them off of that over time if they're really trying to be the parent, because some kids do, want to be the parent. But you can wean them off of that slowly, if that makes sense, because they're not used to it. And it can shock them and kind of put them in that fight or flight kind of scenario, because there's not that fight or flight scenario. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyways, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and I will see you next time.